Hello, and welcome to Full Tech Ahead. I'm your host, Amanda Razani. I'm excited to be here today with Michael Hill. He is the founding partner of Uncrewed Aerospace, as well as the chief flight instructor for Dallas College. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to talk to you.
I'm happy to have you on the show. So, can you share a little bit about your background and how did you get involved in the drone world?
Yeah, I'm glad to do that. So it's kind of an interesting story. I was an executive for Microsoft and retired from Microsoft. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I have five daughters, and my middle daughter, Aubrey, had this little toy drone that she got for Christmas. And she was trying to show me how to fly it, and I was getting frustrated because I just kept crashing it. But it sparked this passion in me. So I went and bought my own drone. I started practicing every day. I went then and started a company. I thought, okay, great. I want to see if I can make a career and make some money out of this since I'm retired from Microsoft. So it really started out as a hobby. So I went out, got my FAA Part 107 license, and basically just started beating the bush and immediately found a client. The client had 100 retirement facilities all across Texas and Louisiana, and they wanted drone footage and inside footage created into a video that they were going to put on their social media to promote the retirement facility. So I spent the first year setting my business up, and then learning how to fly a drone. I had hired this high school student that loved to edit videos. I hate editing videos. I hate doing that. But so I hired this gentleman that I know. He edited all the videos. So I spent the first year learning how to fly a drone, and supporting this client, which is highly unusual.
That's amazing. What an opportunity.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned you got your license. At what point do you have to have a pilot's license to fly a drone?
Yeah, so the FAA looks at it in two aspects. One, if you just like to take your drone and take photos and put them on your Instagram and social media, you're not making any money out of it. You're classified as a recreational drone pilot. They have a little test online. It's called the trust test that you can go and take that just says, I understand aviation, the national airspace, what it is, the responsibilities of flying a drone in that national airspace. And then you can go and take photos and videos or whatever you want. If you want to make money, and that includes maybe flying for a school and they give you tickets to a game, or somebody gives you a pass to something, that's still considered commercializing that operation, right? The FAA requires you to go and get your FAA Part 107. And with that is, you have to be 16 years old at a minimum. You have to be able to read and write English. And then you have to pass an aeronautical exam with a 70%, right? And then once you do that, they send you an actual drone pilot's license. And now you're rated by the FAA to commercially fly drones.
Interesting. I appreciate you clarifying that because I've had some conversations with people that said that it was how high you're flying the drones was what mattered when it came to getting a license. So you're saying actually, if you're using it for commercial use, the height wouldn't matter.
Well, and that is a piece of it. That is one of the rules. Can't fly over 400 feet, can't fly within 5 miles of an airport, can't fly within 150 feet of an obstacle, can't fly over people, can't fly at night. Those are kind of the basic rules for drone piloting. And it's interesting because I'm licensed in the United States, Canada, and the UK because I've traveled the world and trained law enforcement on how to fly drones. And the United States has the lowest bar in operating an aircraft, and it's considered an aircraft by the FAA, but it's the lowest bar of any country to be able to fly a drone in the national airspace, right? But yes, those are the basic rules. And if we want to fly outside of those parameters, we have to file for special waivers, get special permissions to be able to go above that. In my career, I've flown over 6,000 hours. I've done just about everything from infrastructure to commercials to movies to just about everything there is. And sometimes I had an operation at Dallas Fort Worth Airport flying alongside a American Airlines plane that was taking off, and I could fly 100 feet away from the aircraft as it was taking off, but I could only go 75 feet high because it was taking off, right? So there are things that we can do, but we have to have special permissions and authorizations to do that.
Okay.
So you're not wrong.
I know flying a drone can be difficult because I've played around with a few drones in my time and they all pretty much crashed. Of course, it does matter about the quality and level of drone you're using. So, which drones do you think, at what level do you have to be for it to be a little bit easier to fly? I know there's programming and special software now that can make it a little easier than the manual controls.
Yeah, and that's an interesting question because I get asked that a lot. People say, hey, what kind of drone do I buy? I say, if you're just starting out, buy a cheap one because you're going to crash, right? It's pilot error automatically. Just know. The great thing I should say about crashing is what did you learn, right? What is the knowledge you took from that crash? And most people go out and buy a $5,000 drone and then crash it immediately. Well, you're out a $5,000 drone. So I tell people, go on Amazon, go to Walmart, buy something that's within your budget, but at a low price point. They all pretty much fly the same as in up, down, ascend, descent, yaw left and right. But there's a big price difference if you crash a $50 drone versus a $5,000 drone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine now with some of the work that you're doing, you've got the really high-tech drones where you can just sit behind a computer and they're programmed and pretty easy to control. You just press some buttons.
Yeah, what's interesting is when I first started, it was a one pilot to one drone controlling it. And they all have a return to home feature. They lose connection, battery goes low. They're supposed to come back to the launching point. Well, those drones return to home was China, right? They would just be gone. Nowadays, with the advancements of software and technologies and AI per se, it is more of a one pilot to 50 aircraft, or even some drone light shows it's one pilot to 7,000 drones, right? So the advancements of AI in our industry, as well as the technology of the drones that have advanced, is greatly grown. DJI is a Chinese company that has been the best camera drone in the market, off the shelf, right? We've had some political stuff happen the last few years that have banned DJI drones in the United States. So we're lacking a U.S. manufactured type drone to fill that replacement. Like me personally, I have over 25 different DJI drones. I always had the philosophy of two is one and one is none, right? You crash one on a site and you don't have a backup, you're down. You've now lost the client. So I always made sure two is one and one is none, right? And then I bought them, whether it be a thermal or a special camera, whatever the purpose was for that particular client. But those were the best camera drones on the market. So unfortunately, right now, we're kind of struggling in the industry to find an off-the-shelf option.
Are there any players that are making waves in the market? Any chance that we will see some here in America soon?
Yeah. So what's interesting is President Trump just signed that executive order, and it's twofold. One, Part 108, BV loss, which is beyond visual line of sight. One of the other requirement of flying a drone for everybody is you must be able to visually see your aircraft at any time. We know the technology will allow these drones to fly out several miles, do their task, and come back. But the law has said you have to visually see it. Well, President Trump just signed an executive order, and in that, they've released the NPRM for comments on what is going to be beyond visual line of sight, which is going to allow us, those pilots that are trained to fly those and larger aircraft, to be able to fly past that realm, right? There are a few we call small UAS manufacturers. You got Skydio, you've got Anzu Robotics, you've got Autel Robotics. You've got a few players in the market, but there really is no made in U.S., manufactured in U.S., created in U.S. yet, right? So the second part of President Trump's executive order was U.S. drone dominance, right? They want to push forward drone manufacturing in the United States. They want to start feeding that, getting these businesses started. So realistically, I feel like in the next, say, 15 months or so, you're going to start to see companies come out. There's one that I follow called Unusual Machines out of Florida. They make motors for drones. So you're going to start to see some of these companies that are going to start growing. So I'm hopeful within, say, 15 months or so, we'll start to see a U.S. manufactured drone that will be able to compete with the quality and price point that we get from a DJI drone.
That's great. Well, there are so many use cases we're seeing now for drones. And you mentioned when out of line of sight. I can think of several for that use case, rescue missions and all sorts of things. Can you share some interesting use cases for drones?
Yeah, so I'll go back to your first question of my career. So after I got that client, I was hooked, right? I wanted to figure out what do I do next. So I started turning over every rock and started finding any jobs I could, from wind turbine inspections, cell tower inspections, training law enforcement, anything I could find to start flying drones. Well, I got fortunate enough that I fell into the right ecosystem, that I got elected to two of Governor Abbott's Advanced Air Mobility Task Force here in Texas to advise him on laws and that around drones. And I helped get the drone laws written here. With that, we had the North Central Texas Council of Governments UAS task force that I was the policy and legislative chairman for, that we went out and basically started the foundation for what is now package delivery here in North Texas, right? We have Walmart that's delivering to almost 80% of the area now. We've got DoorDash that's using Flytrex and delivering from over 200 restaurants using drones here in North Texas. We've got Amazon that's starting their operations up here for package delivery in Texas. So all of that came out of that task force, which allowed me to go to these companies. They would hire me as a test pilot to come and fly whatever drone they were flying or train whatever. And in that, I became the director of unmanned operations for the Civil Air Patrol. That is the largest search and rescue organization in the world. I was fortunate enough to train over 1,000 of our members to become FAA remote pilots. And then we would fly FEMA missions for hurricane, disasters, doing erosion control, search and rescue, all kinds of things. So I just recently retired from that. And then from there, I became the training officer for the North Central Texas Council UAS task force. It was an unmanned task force of law enforcement, firefighters, and basically training law enforcement and firefighters how to use drones. From that, I became the regional director of business development for the Americas for Volatus Aerospace. They were the largest distributor in the world for drones and drone technology. So I got to do stuff like develop an offshore resupply program for a major oil and gas company using drones to fly 100 miles, 100 pounds offshore to resupply those oil rigs. In addition to that, I architect the first international cross-border delivery program for a major manufacturer. Their manufacturing facility was across the river and across the border in Canada. Their assembly was in Detroit, but they would put the part in a box, drive around, and it could take upwards of 6 hours to get that part to the manufacturing facility. But it was a 5-mile flight for a 29-pound box of bolts. It was their most expedited item. And they run out of those bolts, it shuts the line down, right? So I was fortunate enough that I architect that for a major auto manufacturer. And so you see, there's a lot of use cases. I've done facade scans for architectural companies and real estate companies, basically taking a drone, taking pictures of a building, creating a digital twin of that building so they can look at anomalies and so many things. So there is so much that can be used. I'll end with this. There are over 300 different companies using drones in some aspect or form now.
Wow. Well, what a journey. And thank you for highlighting just a few of the many use cases across all industries. So let's move into something near and dear to you. You just started this program recently, and I'd love for you to share more about that with our audience.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. So I have done so much in this industry. I'm known as the drone pro. If you find me on LinkedIn and social media, you'll see I'm known as the drone pro because I've done so much. So I was thinking maybe it's time I retire and go do some offshore fishing or something in retirement. But I was approached by Unmanned Safety Institute. They're the global leader for training and safety certifications. I've held their safety certifications throughout my whole career. Great group of people. They approached me and said, hey, look, we have an opportunity to set up a program at Dallas College. Would you be interested in being the chief flight instructor and program manager? And I immediately said yes, right? The piece for me, kind of the mic drop moment in my career, is I wanted to build a workforce development program to share my story and to help people get into the drone industry, right? It's really the piece I hadn't done yet, right? So I immediately said yes, jumped on board. And so I started in January. And since then, I have built a program inside of the college that we are taking adult learners and students and walking them through that process of getting your FAA Part 107. And then we have a primary and advanced track for more safety certifications. So when I launched this, we finally got all the pieces put together. The first class was launched in May. It was the largest launch of a new course in Dallas College's history across all 7 of their campuses. We had 100 people that signed up for the course. To date, 92, I think it is now, have passed the FAA Part 107 exam. So it was a massive, massive launch. From that launch, we now have a course inside of the college's learning management system that's all virtual. It's a self-study that you can log in, work through the videos and virtual instruction to get your FAA Part 107 license, and then advance into a primary and advanced track to learn how to fly BVLOS and those kind of things, right? So that kicked off in May. And then in July, this was so much fun. In July, we hosted our first drone camp for 11 to 13-year-olds. And we had 45 kids in the camp that we took them from the first day we got on their FAA trust test, or 60, there were 60 kids, I'm sorry. All 60 kids got their FAA trust test. And then the second day, we had a drone in the box solution that basically you build a drone, you learn to fly it. And then the last 2 days, we had built 3 different obstacle courses for them to fly their drones. And we had all these activities, and my family stepped in. My family runs Uncrewed Aerospace as I'm off at the college. My wife runs Uncrewed Aerospace. So they stepped in to help me with the camp. And it was a massive success, right? The kids just loved it. They actually was writing me as recently as a few days ago saying, hey, when's the next one? My kids wants to sign up again. So we've created this workforce development program at Dallas College that's available through all 7 of their campuses virtually, right? So super excited about that program. I love to talk about it. We get so many people that, come to it and go through the classes. We're working with a number of ISDs here in Texas to funnel their kids through the program as well. It's mostly those that don't have a flight line or don't have the money in for a budget. It's their partnership with Dallas College to bring all these students through this program, because now with this change in Part 108 and this U.S. dominance of the drone, there are going to be lots of jobs coming. Right now, I tell people there are no jobs in the drone industry. There are a lot of opportunities, right? And this is a skill that I'm going to teach you so you are empowered to go and start your own drone business. Maybe you work for a real estate company and you're going to fly the photos for them. Maybe you're in law enforcement and you're going to do search and rescue and overwatch. And maybe you're in construction and you're going to learn to do this and implement that in your job day to day. So there are no jobs out there for drone pilots, but there's a lot of opportunities for you to, make money and empower yourself and grow in this industry.
Yeah, essentially empowering entrepreneurs with skills.
Yes, and it's a skill very much like a welder or a plumber or electrician, right? It's a skilled tradesman, right? You could start your own little business and go and do very well, as well as I have, as many others in the industry too. Or maybe it helps you. Maybe you're an engineer and you're working on software or hardware for these kind of aircraft, right? And you need to understand what it takes to fly them. Maybe you're a software coder, right? And you're developing software for autonomous drone flights or military or whatever it may be in this industry. This is really the kind of the starting point for you to get in, understand what it is and how the technology works and all of those things. But it also gives you that opportunity to better your life, better your family, because you now have a skill you can go out and make money with.
Absolutely. Well, that camp sounds so cool. I would love to see something like that here in my own city. Are you looking to expand any of these programs that you just spoke about?
Yeah, so that's the interesting piece, right? So we learned a lot with the camp, right? So my family with Uncrewed Aerospace, they've worked out a program of how to go and replicate these camps all over. So my wife and daughters, as I said, they run Uncrewed Aerospace for me. So they're looking at branching out, going to ISDs. They're in conversation with several ISDs now to start hosting these camps around. So yeah, I hope to get one in your area really soon. They're a lot of fun. We had so much fun, right? It was amazing. We did everything from, we had debates about drones. We had a question and answer sessions about drone technology. We had a monster drone build with teams. It was just so much fun that we're looking to do this all over and just kind of replicate and scale this all over.
Well, wonderful. Are there any final insights you can share with our audience today?
Yeah. So the biggest misconception I would say is people go, oh, the drone industry, I'm going to quit my job because there's jobs in the drone industry. You have to remember there are no jobs in the drone industry. I mean, you Google right now, you probably find 25 jobs in the state of Texas for drone pilots, right? And you got some 300,000 registered drone pilots, But I will share with you this. There are a lot of opportunities, as I've talked about in this, for you to empower yourself, to empower your community, to give back, to learn the technology, to make some money, all of these things that you'll learn from flying a drone. But I have to stress to you, don't be a bad actor. We have a lot of bad actors in our industry that don't follow the rules, that don't use common sense, right? When you're flying a drone, it is a privilege for us to fly in the national airspace. And these bad actors, it diminishes and hurts the industry that is just on the cuffs of exploding. So I implore you, if you want to fly a drone, make sure you do it the right way. Make sure you got your license, make sure you're flying properly and safe. It's all about safety, right? As we shared in the beginning of this, you're going to crash, right? It happens to all of us, unfortunately, right? But learn from those experiences, right? I believe knowledge is power. And the more that you know, the more educated you are about the technology and how to use it, it makes you a better pilot overall.
Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your insights and all this awesome information.
Yeah, please follow me. You can follow Uncrewed Aerospace on all social media platforms, my YouTube channel. You can find me on LinkedIn, Michael Hill, the Drone Pro. Please follow me. I love to talk to people about this technology. I love to hear what people are doing. I love to hear people go, well, how do I get started or what? I love to hear that. So please reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Wonderful. All right. You heard it. Reach out. That was such a great show. And stay tuned. There's more like this coming. Have a great day.
Thank you.